Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for Duke for hosting us, and thank you for HL7 for hosting this event. Even though we are a startup, we've been members of HL7 for the last 2 years. We think that standards-based integration and standards-based work is important, so thank you for having us again today. My name is Mark Olschesky. I'm the Chief Data Officer at Datica. The last time that we presented at the last FHIR Applications Roundtable, we were known as Catalyze. We've since rebranded as a company. Part of the reason is the fact that we couldn't get a broad enough trademark application on the name Catalyze, but it's also a reaffirmation that the focus of our company is helping customers with data. So how do we do that? What we do is we work with vendors and health systems, and we connect the two together through a variety of products. Our specialty is healthcare in the cloud, and how we accomplish that through those means. We do this through 2 products, and with Datica in the middle of both of them. First is our compliant cloud product, and second is our managed integration product. So our compliant cloud takes all of the necessary pieces on top of public clouds like AWS, Azure, SoftLayer, and Rackspace, and builds an additional layer of protection using Docker containers to deploy that in a high-trust certified manner to manage not only the physical safeguards of HIPAA compliance, but also the technical layers of HIPAA compliance as well. This is the baseline and the base product of every other product that we've built since then, and we've provided guidance on what it means for modern application developers to build their products in the cloud. Whenever we had customers who had data that they were now storing in the cloud, the next problem that we needed to work on and solved was managed integration. So how do you get data in and out of health systems using X12, HL7? How do you set up VPNs? And how do you transform that data in ways that modern application developers understand? At the last FHIR Applications Roundtable, we showed a demonstration of how we take proprietary APIs and HL7 feeds and we transform it into FHIR for our customers. We won't be discussing that today. I can demo it afterwards. But the big news is we've connected over 125 organizations with our customers just over the last 2 years and growing. But the big news today and what I'm here to discuss is that we really realized over the last few years that the hardest problem for our customers is going from 0 to 1 and building new applications. So we were doing the hosting and we gave people the ability to build applications, and we had the data integration and we had the ability to push data into applications. But what happens if you're starting from scratch and if you're building a new application on a platform? And how can you merge those 2 concepts together? And maybe to give an example, and it merges pretty well with the demonstration we saw earlier of how you would push data, aggregating ADT feeds to an application. Let's say you were trying to build a post-discharge care platform, and there are a lot of vendors that do that today for orthopedics or cardiology, mental health, et cetera. It's a pretty popular area in this space. If you were going to build a post-discharge care platform, you would probably need to ingest 2 data feeds if it was going to be an integrated product. You need to absorb some type of registration feed so you know when patients were admitted and discharged, and you'd probably need to be able to query for some type of CDA formatted document to know meds, allergies, problem list, et cetera. If there was FHIR, you'd use FHIR, but as we have non-widespread adoption of that, we're still waiting for those things to happen. But realistically, in that post-discharge care platform box, you got to do a lot of application development up front in order to make that work. You probably need to be able to handle patient merges of some way. You need to have some MPI capabilities to identify if this person is the same as some other person or give your application the ability to query that data store. And finally, you need to be able to build the longitudinal patient record. How do you know specifically that these events are happening over time and to be able to slice and dice them through some queryable format? This problem becomes even more complicated whenever you apply this to the new world that we live in the era of value-based care, where there's other hubs or there's other database concepts that work if you just have one organization and you have one application. But what happens now if you're building an application that needs to consume data from multiple different sources? Now, in order to be able to accurately provide care for a patient, it's not just connecting to one specific EMR. It's connecting to long-term care facilities, it's connecting to SNFs, it's even connecting to other hospitals and putting data into one place or be able to access data from multiple locations and to be able to provide one one specific insight into what a given patient or given population looks like. Of course, this raises even larger questions, notably who, whenever they contribute data into this group, can see what and how do we track usage. And so when we were thinking of what we could do to help, we realized that we needed to come up with a better way to manage this box. And so we came up with a few new concepts that we built around our Data Hub product. The first was a concept of a community, where that using our Data Hub product, that multiple organizations who are affiliated would be able to contribute data with specific feeds, but would be able to query that data out with certain levels of access control. So the APIs dictate who can see which information, and whenever sending data into the Data Hub, there would be inbound metadata management, so you'd be able to tag data, tag data, for example, as you receive diagnoses coming in, you could tag it with IMO lexical content, or you'd be able to apply a rules engine to determine what applications need to do certain actions upon receiving data into the Data Hub. So whenever you'd see somebody being admitted to the hospital, making sure that a care coordinator in another hospital would receive a message through a secure messaging application. Then from there, in the Data Hub concept, you have the entirety of the organization. So within one hub for a customer, how can you make sure that you can expose data from all of your customers to somebody else based upon predefined means? And this is how you'd be able to expose metrics across all of your customers, expose metadata across all of your customers, in a way in which if you were aggregating data into this Data Hub, you would be able to expose de-identified data for research for all of your customers. And so this is the impetus, and this was the design behind the Data Hub concept. How could we build a centralized database and API layer in order to make it so that application developers wouldn't need to start from scratch in building a new application? The backbone of this, and again, we believe standards-based integration is important, is HL7 FHIR. So the data storage element for it right now and all the APIs are DSTU2. Whenever STU3 is released, hopefully at the end of this month, we'll then support that as one of the other protocols, but right now we can support multiple versions of FHIR within the Data Hub itself. With that being said, I'm going to show a demo of what the Data Hub looks like to our customers. And this is the first time when we've demonstrated this. This is the official launch of the product today. Yeah, thanks. So it's exciting to be able to show it to everyone. So this is what, if you were a Datica customer today and you were one of our hosting customers, what your environment looks like. So here's a list of your Docker containers in your environment. So you have a database, you have a code environment. So what we would do for your Thorn environment is that we would now deploy a Data Hub into your environment. Whoop, clicked through that accidentally. Hold on. The one thing you can see it here, and it's interesting, where we've code-named this application Thorn. All of our applications when we're in internal development at Datica are named after books in the Tolkien cycle and characters in them. You may know Thorin gathered men, elves, and dwarves together to fight the orcs in the Battle of 5 Armies. And just like with that, we try and coordinate data to fight whoever in your interoperability problems are your orcs. I think that's going to differ based upon where you're at. If you want to help talk our marketing team to let it still be Thorn whenever it reaches general availability, let us know. That would be great. So we go, let me figure out how to get this back into the large view again. Thanks. Oh, it's that button. So when you hop into your container in the Data Hub, you can see the two concepts that we have in which you can build and aggregate data feeds. So you have communities and you have organizations that you can build APIs against. And if you want to add a new organization, so a new hospital or a new place that you'd be receiving data from, you can create a new organization quickly here through that site. When you click into an organization, you can see metadata about that site. So this would be a hospital. And we provide two things. One are access keys, which would be able to sign OAuth-based requests to access data, but also has feeds for incoming data. So this is where you can set where you would ingest FHIR, and this is where you'd also interject either rules or scripting for data that would be coming into your system. The key, which is up there, is what you use to sign information that you push into the data hub. And if you take a look at this workflow, this is a fully powerful. It uses Nashorn, which is JavaScript on the JVM, to script applications. Oh, there's no pause button. Which is, there we go. Go back to here. JavaScript on the JVM, so we have full scripting capabilities. Rules will have access next from a scripting standpoint to be able to write rules whenever we're ingesting data into the data hub. So how does it work from a programming standpoint? So this is a FHIR bundle. So this is the FHIR bundle that we posted into here, so you can see the authorization that we wrote into that system. Actually, let's go back a bit. So whenever we take a look at this ingestion mechanism, so your authorization right here is the key that you saw earlier in that dashboard. So to be able to write data into the system, you don't need to sign a request. So if you were going to be able to push this API for development, you'd be able to put this into a web services engine or something of a similar ilk. You can see here we have a pretty big FHIR bundle that we post into the system here. And whenever we post that data here, one of the things that we designed the data layer to do was to be able to manage the speed of the ingestion. So even a 5,000 node JavaScript bundle can be absorbed by the system in under a second, which means that we architected the system to be able to process millions of messages a day from multiple disparate data sources. For a smaller message, which we'll pull up here from another programming view, if you have a smaller message which you process, and we'll paste in a more practical looking patient bundle, and you don't need to be a programmer to see this is a very basic patient object where you have a medical record number, family name, and I'm writing in a new medical record number here so you can see what the querying capabilities of that system look like. Whenever you post that data into the system, and you send that into the ingestion engine, you can see that we process that a bit faster. So if I wanted to be able to query that data out of the system, I make a request to gain an OAuth token, which I sign from those keys that we saw earlier in the dashboard. I gain my access token, and then I can use this to sign my request to query for data. This is where you have your access control layer to determine who in organizations can see what, who can make what queries, who can see what subsets of FHIR bundles. And so whenever I use that token that I gained, you can see that I can query for the patient data that I just posted into the system. Upserts, as you know, updating patient information is one of the harder parts of managing data, and we manage this for you, so you don't have to think about if it's a put, is it new data? We're managing this reconciliation for you on the back end, so all you need to do is post the new object, which I did, and you can see the new data object here where I updated this with my own name. We decided that for this given patient, we needed to upsert this data, and we managed that update transparently on the back end and determined who would be able to see that data from there. Okay, now the demo is officially over. So from this standpoint, we are currently in limited availability. So we're working with 3 customers right now where we have this deployed. One actually just went live in production last week, where we've aggregated registration feeds across 12 hospitals in order to present the data to people to be able to query it for natural language process of clinical notes. One where we've taken data for telestroke applications, where we've taken observations, results, and admissions, and then upon a telestroke consult, where the academic medical center can query for the data and receive all of the information about all of the visits at the given hub or the given spoke sites, determine which patient is which. And finally, we've used this to aggregate scheduling data across disparate EMRs, where we can aggregate different scheduling feeds from different sources and provide not just one scheduling application, but a variety of patient-facing scheduling applications, the ability to review schedule availability and then schedule appointments directly back into the EMR. We're always looking for partners to fight the orcs. but mostly to work on interoperability, where you can see that with a box in the middle for application development that you have a need for things to add value on both ends of the equation, both for applications to be built on top of the data hub for visualization and application workflow for providers, all the way to patient-facing apps, which using that OAuth-based structure, you could be patient-facing application as well, to having better tools for tagging metadata as we ingest data into the data hub. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to talk about what we do at Datica, anything about HIPAA compliance, integration, and what we're doing with data and analytics at our company. I'll be outside afterwards, but if you want to email me, my email address is mark@datica.com. Thank you.